Alright, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Lore Doctor channel. And today we're going to talk about a character that has always intrigued me ever since he was first introduced in the series. And that would be Junpei Ichino. Alright, from the earlier episodes of JJK. Now, it is of my beliefs that under the right circumstances, with the right amount of training, with the right mentor, with the right persons, with the right friends, Junpei could have been, his potential could have reached that of a grade 1 sorcerer. I know it's crazy, but I do believe that with the nature of Junpei's technique, it could have been polished, it could have been improved to the point where he could have been a strong and successful shaman. Alright, but let us first do a little bit of background on Junpei. Now, Junpei was your average regular student who was mercilessly bullied by his schoolmates. He then met Mahito, who he befriended and whatever have you, and skipping a bit, Mahito used Agile Transfiguration to unlock Junpei's curse technique, which in this case was poison through the usage of Moondreads. Now, it is my belief that Moondreads is a very versatile technique and a very useful one. Alright, now let's first go over why Moondreads, or why this curse techniques is a good curse technique. It's not anything crazy like the 10 Shadows or Limitless, but it's a good solid technique. So first and foremost, poison. Now, Moondreads is able to apply poison to the opponent through two main methods that we currently know of. That would be through the usage of its tentacles or tendrils and usage of its piercer. Now, as some of you may know, poison in the JJK verse is a very potent tool for actually fighting sorcerers because one, it's very hard to get out of the body. For a sorcerer to get it out of their body, they would naturally need an antidote, or they would have to use RCT, reverse curse technique, to actually heal their bodies from that poison. But it is a case where that is a very difficult thing to do for your average sorcerer who does not know RCT. So this serves as Junpei's first and most viable win condition in any fight that he is in. Now, we do not see how this poison actually affects cursed spirits, so I'm not too sure how it would actually affect them. If it would be more potent, if it would be less potent, would it be the same? We are not sure, because from what we've seen so far, it has only been used on people, and with people it has a very numbing and stunning effect, where it will actually burn the skin of the person, cause blisters to form on their skin, and overall leave them immobile. Alright, now the poison is one thing, right? But just the nature of Moondreads by itself is a whole other thing to tackle. Moondreads is a giant jellyfish. It is a giant jellyfish that has tendrils and is able to create, from what we've seen, two piercers. Now, these piercers can be used to once again apply the poison, and they can be used for long distance combat, which is good. Along with the tendrils, can also be used for mid to long distance combat as well, and short range as well. And through these tendrils, the poison can also be applied. Now, I believe it is a case where, as a Shikigami user, Junpei is quite special in that he does not use talismans to actually summon Moondreads. He can just use a hand sign and summon it from his cursed energy, which is very good. Just the fact that he does not need any catalyst or any secondary tool is very good on resource management. Now, it is of my belief that the nature of Moondreads as jellyfish really helps in combat, because one, it allows him to be essentially void, or he is unaffected by blunt attack, as Yuji stated in their fight. Once Moondreads encapsulates Junpei is unable to get harmed by blunt attacks, so kicks, punches, all of that are no longer valid. And please keep in mind that this was a this was Yuji who was talking. Although it was before he got all his buffs and whatever have you, Yuji or base Yuji is not a normal person. As a matter of fact, I would think that base Yuji would scale to around a grade 3 or a grade 2 sorcerer. Alright, so him just saying that his blunt attacks were just not working on Moondreds is definitely not bad whatsoever. Now, along with that, the other factor that comes into play, because Moondreds is a jellyfish, it can actually float above ground, and we saw that in the anime, Moondreds was able to pick up people off the air. And it is of my belief that since that Moondreds is able to pick up a person relatively easy with its tendril and is able to accompany a person's full weight, it should not be that far-fetched to say that Moondreds would grant the ability, or grant the user the ability to essentially either fly or levitate. Alright, and in combat, flying or levitating, by the way that Moondreds will do this is just the user would just stay on top of its head or be carried by its tendrils or whatever. But the ability to fly or levitate is very, very beneficial in any form of combat. It can be used as a great way for traversal, can be used to gain the advantage, the upper hand in a fight. Overall, the ability of flight that Moondreds would be able to grant to the user would be very useful in effect. So we have poison, we have the ability of flight, the fact that it is immune to blunt attacks. Alright, those are three good qualities of a Shikigami so far. Now, along with that, one other thing that can be used with the entire jelly state of Moondreds. Now, this is kind of theoretical, but since that Moondreds is a jellyfish, and as we know that in order to survive, jellyfish are able to reproduce asexually, where they're able to break off and split off and multiply. It may not be that far-fetched to say that, say for example, if Moondreds is split in half, you might have 2 Moondreds being spawned, or 4 depending on the slashes. Now, I think that would be possible, but as a sort of balancing thing, it would take more and more cursed energy to maintain all of those forms, all of those instances of Moondreds on the field. So that one is a bit more of a theoretical standpoint. Now, Mojito stated that with time and experience, Junpei would be able to control the size of Moondreds and the potency as well. Now, the size thing is a very, very big thing. It's a big factor, because if you remember correctly, when Sukuna first, this is spoilers by the way, when Sukuna first got a hold of the 10 shadows, with his cursed energy, he was able to buff Niue to be the size of skyscrapers, basically. And theoretically, Junpei can do the same thing, or he can go into the direct opposite, where he's able to allow Moondreds to be very, very minuscule, and this can be very useful for more stealthy operations, where he is, for example, trying to take out a person or stun a person just by poisoning them covertly with a very, very small Moondred that would be somewhere on the field. So Junpei can distract them and allow this very tiny Moondred to go and poison them, hide on their boys and poison him. The poison will stun the opponent, where Junpei could deliver the finishing blow. Alright, I think that all of those would contribute into Moondred being a very, very powerful Shikigami to actually have. Along with that, alright, I think animes and shonen series like Naruto really undersell just how important the power of jumping a person really is. If you ever played any fighting game, it is a case where if you have 2 bodies on the field, so say for example if you're fighting puppet characters, if you have 2 bodies on the field, can be very, very tricky to actually fight, especially if that puppet user or those 2 teammates or whatever are being very oppressive. And as a Shikigami user, Junpei has this innate advantage. But now we come to the disadvantages of Junpei's Moondreds, or the disadvantages that Junpei would overall have as a shaman. first and foremost, as a Shikigami users are always weak to close quarter combat. As Gojo once said, once you're fighting a Shikigami user, you don't fight the Shikigami, you fight the user themselves. Alright, now, in order to compensate for this, I believe it's a case where Junpei can, if he had actually lived, he could have learned how to be a decent, alright, hand-to-hand combatant, because for one, he would have had connections with Maki, the best, or currently one of the best martial artists or hand-to-hand combatants in the JJK verse. He'd be friends with Yuji, who is also a beast when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. He will have connections to Megabe, who is in the same boat where he uses Shikigami, and he is very versatile in hand-to-hand combat as well. So I do believe that with all of these people that he can, get connections with, Junpei could compensate for his lack of physical ability and become a more well-rounded Shikigami user. However, it is of my belief that Junpei is one of those sources who would definitely benefit from the usage of a cursed tool or a cursed weapon. Now, we are going to go into another section where is his potential. What could Junpei do to maximize his potential with Moondreads to be the best curse user, to be the best shaman that he could possibly be? So first and foremost, he would have to really think creatively about Moondreads. Because think about it, this is a gelatin substance that can fly, that can emit poison, that is able to be a very good defensive option, and it can provide mid to long range combat effectiveness, right? Now, it is of my belief, if Junpei was able to allow the Moondreads poison to flow within or flow throughout the body of the Shikigami, this could have been a very, very potent tool. Because say for example, if Moondreads is fighting an opponent, right, and the opponent hits Moondreads, instead of the physical attack being bounced back, it will be absorbed by Moondreads, meaning that if the person or if the opponent goes in for a punch, Moondreads will begin to absorb the person, and once the person is absorbed, alright, Moondreads' body would be able to apply the poison. Because remember, the main technique of Junpei is poison through the use of Moondreads. So I believe that through a bit more creative thinking, as we saw with Sukuna when he got the 10 shadows, through some creative thinking, Junpei is able to apply the poison through more ways than just the stingers and the tendril. He can make the poison run through Moondreads, and that would give Junpei a very high advantage when it comes on to hand-to-hand combatants, because if they do get close, there's a chance that they might be absorbed into Moondreads, where they will be hit with the poison. There would be a chance where they would get hit by the poison, get paralyzed, and using the curse tool, which I think a spear would work really well for Junpei's fighting style, they would then be executed. Alright. And with that being said, I hope I brought across my point on why Junpei would be a suitable grade 1 sorcerer if he had actually lived and was not killed by Mahito. Let's review it. I'll review the points that I made. So 1, the nature of Moondreads as being a gelatin creature that is immune to blunt attacks provide a fantastic defense. Number 2, Moondreads applies poison, which is a very, very useful source of damage, especially when fighting other curse users. 3, Junpei is special in that he does not need any resources such as talismans to actually summon Moondreads. 4, Moondreads could hypothetically provide levitation and flight for Junpei in a combat scenario. Junpei could also allow Moondreads to be split in half and to be divided, and that could providing more of a numbers advantage. Further on, he, being friends with people like Yuji, Fushiguro, and Maki, would be able to alter his physical stat to make him a more intimidating, a more suitable shaman. And with that we've come to the end of the video. It's the first time I'm doing a video like this, and I hope to do more of these types of videos in the future. With that being said, please enjoy the rest of your day.